miracle, as we look at it, actually is unique among all the miracles that Jesus performed, because it is the only miracle that actually occurs, is recorded in all four Gospels. And what makes it significant is not because it gets the most coverage, but I believe what makes it important is what this miracle implies. Before we get to that, let's catch up a little bit about what's going on in Jesus' life and ministry. You'll see back in verse 1 a little bit of context laid out for us. Here's what it says. After this, Jesus went away to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias. And a large crowd was following him because they saw the signs that he was doing on the sick. And Jesus went up on the mountain, and there he sat down with his disciples. And then it says, now the Passover, the feast of the Jews, was at hand. The last few weeks, as we began this journey a handful of weeks ago, we've been sort of following Jesus, sort of making the rounds with him. He seems to be jumping back and forth between Galilee, which is his home region. Capernaum is his home city, his base of operations. But he's all over Galilee, but he keeps going to the south and back to the north and back and forth. So we've seen him in Cana performing the miracle of turning the wine or water into wine. And he travels south, and then he comes back up to Cana again. And he heals the child of the Roman official from afar. And then Jesus heads back south again. We see him last time at the pool. The man that was lame for 38 years and ministers to him and makes him well. Something after that, at some point, he journeys back to the north again. He's in Galilee, and that's where we sort of pick up the story where Jesus crosses the Sea of Galilee, this Lake of Tiberias, to the eastern side of the sea. And at this particular moment, Jesus' popularity is growing. And he's got crowds, the word is spreading across the region. Crowds, it's described in scriptures as multitudes are following after him. He's really developed quite a following here. And at this moment, a huge crowd has gathered around him. Our passage says 5,000 men. And it's the time of the Passover celebration. So whether that's important or not, it may be that some of the crowd has grown because many people were beginning to make their way to Jerusalem for the Passover celebration, and they sort of caught up with Jesus along the way. Maybe that's why the crowd is surging here. We're not sure. But what we do know is that people have shown up and wanted to hear from Jesus and listen to Jesus because of his miracles. By the point that we catch up with Jesus here in chapter 6, Jesus has been teaching all day. There's no doubt that the crowd is getting tired and it's late. They're out in the middle of nowhere. And people are starting to get a little hungry. Jesus sees this to be a very real problem, but he also uses it as an opportunity to engage his disciples. And so you see in verse 5, he begins to motivate his disciples to respond to it. Look at verse 5. It says, lifting up his eyes then, and seeing that a large crowd was coming toward him, Jesus says to Philip this question, where are we to buy bread so that these people may eat? And you need to know that Jesus came to Philip probably for one particular reason, and that is Philip himself was from Bethsaida, which was a community nearby. So it makes sense for Jesus to come to him and to ask him, hey, is there some deal or some grocery store, some marketplace that we can buy food for all these people? But we need to ask the question, do we really believe that the God of the universe doesn't know where to get food at this moment? Jesus knows everything. He knows absolutely everything. So why is he asking? Well, verse 6 tells us. Verse 6 says that Jesus said this to test Philip. For he, Jesus himself, knew what he would do. And so he's asked this question of Philip to ask him. This is a test here. Now, you need to think about this. Up to this moment, Jesus has taken care of everything in his ministry. He's done all the teaching. He's performed all the miracles. He's healed all the people. It was all Jesus all the time up to this moment, but up to this moment now, things are beginning to change. You will read in other Gospels where Jesus tells them, you feed him. You feed him. You do the work here. So this time, though, he's inviting his disciples, the ones that had already said, yes, we believe in you, Jesus. We're following after you. You'll be our master. We'll be your disciples. We're on your team. Jesus is pushing them here in the realm of belief. This time he's not just inviting the crowd to believe, but again inviting his disciples to believe by testing them. And man will attest that it really is. I mean, he's really asking them, first with Philip, but all of them, to engage in an impossible situation. I want you to think about it. How would you go about feeding all of these people? This great crowd of people. Jesus says, hey, you do something here. You give them something to eat. What would you do? How would you pursue it? How are you going to feed them? What would be the resources that you would tap into? And if he's asking me, I'm like, I don't have a clue. I've got nothing for you. So what is your response? Well, Jesus asked him about the food first in order to test him, to put him to the test. And the fact that Jesus asked him to put him to the test implies that he failed the test. And he fails it in grand fashion. You see, this is indeed a near impossible thing that Jesus has asked Philip to attend to. Where can we buy some food to feed all of these people? And Philip's response, as we're going to see here in just a moment, is much like how we would respond, and that is, there's not enough that we have at our disposal to meet this need, Jesus. I can't do this. I don't have what it takes. And then we often respond in our own unique ways in similar fashion as Philip is going to respond to. We get a phone from the bill collector. And we know that phone call was going to come because we had seen 2 or 3 bill notices that we've been late on the payment. And maybe you've been there before. You look at that amount that's on the bill and you recognize that what they're wanting to get the bill up in good standing is far more than you have in your bank account. Or maybe that's not you. Or maybe you have a problem at work. And it is an enormous issue. You're not quite sure how to address it. And so do you say, I don't know what to do? Maybe I'll work weekends for a few weeks and maybe it all will work out. Or do you do that, or do you take it to the Lord? Or maybe you have a secret sin, some ongoing struggle that you have, and you're not sure what you're going to do with it. You think, man, I'm never going to overcome this. And whatever your particular issue is, whatever thorn in the flesh that you have to deal with, you may be thinking something's not right with you, or do you turn it over to the Lord? Well, when these are tests, friend. When you face whatever your struggle is, and we all have our unique struggles, each of us, we all face these things, and it's a test for you, just like Philip faced a test. But let me tell you why we often fail those tests when they come our way, is because we fail to trust the Lord with our tests. We fail to lay it all at His feet. We struggle to see past the challenges that are in front of us, and those things dominate our view, and we can't see around it. We can't see beyond it. We can't see the possibility of hope and victory past it, and we struggle to see that God is present with us to provide for us in the midst of our test.